Hi, my name is Carey Holzman. I'm the author of the book The Healthy PC by McGraw-Hill, which is available at Amazon.com. I also host the podcast Tech Vets, which is completely free, that you can download at www.tech-vets.com. Be sure and check that out. And I run my own computer repair business here in Phoenix, Arizona. And today I've got a diagnosis and repair video. This system is a system I built back in April of 2005 for this customer, and I haven't heard from this customer since. This is the first time I've heard from this customer since I built this system. Now, to give you an idea, I'm making this video in March of 2012, so almost exactly 7 years since the date it was built. This computer has been trouble-free and has given this customer no problems at all. But that said, this is a typical computer customer where they're not opening it up and upgrading everything. Not like, you know, a lot of the guys out there who are interested in like how to build a gaming computer wouldn't have a gaming computer for 7 years without upgrading something, because it just wouldn't be able to play the latest games. But for being able to get on the internet and check email and do basic things, this computer has been fulfilling this customer's needs since I built it. And it was continuing to do so until they tell me it stopped turning on. So, first thing I want to do is take the cover off of it. And on the back of this computer we've got two screws that are a bit different here. So we can remove just this one panel. I got my electric screwdriver just because it's easier. And we're going to pull out both of these screws. I'm going to set these aside because we're going to need them later. Now, after 7 years, I imagine if this customer has never opened this up and blown it out, I don't know what it looks like, so I feel like I'm opening Al Capone's vault here. Let's see what it looks like in there. Well, you know what, it's not too bad. Not too bad. It's a little bit dusty, and I don't see anything obvious. Again, when a customer tells you a system won't turn on, the first thing I want to do is open it up and look inside just to see if there's anything obvious. What we're going to do now is verify the customer's symptom here of their PC. So I've got my monitor plugged in. I just have to, I've got power plugged in. I've got to plug in the video cable. I've got power for the computer here, and I've got keyboard and mouse. It's just a USB mouse. We'll just plug it in anywhere in the back. Make sure the switch on the power supply is flipped to the on position, and we just hit the power button, which is around here somewhere. There it is. That's a dead computer, all right. It doesn't even power up at all. Well, I'll tell you what. Before I get my hands in here and get them dusty, there's one thing I like to do to every computer that comes in my shop. I think you know what that is. Okay, so now that we have all the dust and dirt blown out of it, and you saw there was a lot more that came out of it that it didn't look as bad until you hit it with the electric leaf blower and you see just how much comes out. Sometimes the looks can be a bit deceiving. Yeah, sometimes they don't look like they're that bad until you hit them with the leaf blower, and then the big clouds of dust come out and you realize, wow, that had a lot of dust in there. So, because this computer more or less acts the same whether it's plugged in or not, it just does nothing. This is truly a dead computer. Unlike my other video, where perhaps it wasn't necessarily dead because what was happening in the other repair video is the computer would turn on, but nothing would happen, which is, at the time, I considered to be dead. But this is truly dead. I mean, this is a doorstop at this point. So the first thing on a symptom like this is the power supply. That's the first thing to check. But I'm not going to go through the hassle of removing this power supply. All I'm going to do is unplug it from the motherboard. There are two cables coming from the power supply that plug into the motherboard, and there's one right here, an old 20-pin. I guess that makes sense given its age. It's a 20-pin connector. And then there's the 4-pin CPU connector there from the power. And now I've got my spare power supply here. This is just one I use for testing. And we're just going to hook those two cables right back up again. Now, of course, Windows isn't going to load if the machine boots because we're not hooking up the hard drive and optical drive and such, just to save time. And we can just plug this in, like so. And we need our 4-pin CPU connector right there. And that's all there is to it. Now I can plug the video back in and plug the power cable, not into this power supply, but into this one. Which goes that way. It switches in the off position on the power supply. Plug in the mouse and plug in the keyboard. Alright, now that that's done, let me move this over so we can make sure we can get everything in the shot. This will tell me if it's a power supply or not, if it works. So we flip the switch on, hit that button, and I hear fans turning. Let me step over here so I can see the screen. Look at that. It booted. Now, of course, it's not going to boot into Windows, as I mentioned, because we didn't hook up the power supply to the drives. This is just for diagnostic purposes. So it does seem that all this computer needs is a power supply. Now, this is a very simple repair. To change out the power supply, I'm just going to hit the switch here to turn it off. I'm not actually going to use this power supply. This is a testing power supply, and it's much more than what this customer needs. So I'm going to just go ahead and remove the testing power supply now. And we're going to get a new power supply. We're going to pull this power supply out, the bad one, and we'll put a new power supply in here, hook everything back up, and see if it all works. Before we begin, I want to make sure I unplug everything, just to be extra safe. We're going to unplug everything so the computer is back to being completely free of any cables. And then what we're going to do here is we're just going to unplug all of the power supply connectors. And we've got, we just removed the one from the optical drive, one from the floppy, one from the hard drive. That's it. There are 4 screws on the back we take out right here. You see, I just caught the power supply before I took out that last screw because it wanted to fall inside. And you don't want it to fall. We're just going to sort of wiggle that out. And there's our old bad power supply, which I'll save and use as one of my gun targets later. So I'll just set that aside. Now here I've got another power supply. Installation. Installation is the opposite of removal. You will see that there are 4 screw holes. There are 1 in each corner, and then 1 is offset in this top corner, and it will match this offset one here, so you don't put it in upside down. You won't be able to screw it in. So the first thing we do is slide it back into position here. See if I can give you a view of that. Every case is a little bit different with the support brackets. You just sort of have to weld it around a little bit and figure it out. Just because they're all similar, but they're all different. So we're going to take those 4 screws we just took out, and I'm going to hold the power supply in with one hand as I go ahead and start putting at least 1 screw in to hold it in place for me. And now I can go ahead and put the other 3 in. I don't tighten them down just yet. You can make sure all the screws are in about 3/4 of the way, and then once they are, then we can tighten them down. It's not like a car tire. It does not have to be tightened down in any particular pattern. And let's see, this doesn't use the 24-pin connector, so we'll take that off of there. This is an older motherboard, and it just needs the 20-pin. So that just slides off of there, that extra 4 pins off of that connector. And this really wouldn't affect you unless you're working on an older system like this one. And we're just going to plug that in there like so. And we've got our CPU power connector right here. That's going to go down here. Again, all these only go in one way. I'm going to need, let's see, what do we have? We can use this one up here for the optical drive. And up, down from that is the small floppy power connector, which we can then put down here. Just like that. And now's a good time as you're doing this to make sure all your cables are not tangled. So those will get wire tied up, you know, like this. And I use the 2 end power cables just so that I can wire tie this up, you know, make it look a little cleaner. And then we'll wire tie this one up, and we'll use the last connector on it to go to the, let's see. It's really just about how it's going to look when it's done. Is it going to look cleaner if I put that connector on and wire tie it up that way? Or is it going to look cleaner if I use this connector and wire tie it up? Yeah, I'd probably do it that way. So we'll do that. So that's just the hard drive there, the power connector for the hard drive. And I'm not going to wire tie anything yet because I need to verify now that it's going to work. We just replaced the power supply. That's how fast that was. So once again, we're going to plug the video cable in, just like this. We're going to plug our keyboard and our mouse in. So the mouse is USB, it can go into any USB port on the back. The keyboard is a purple connector, as you can see here, and it will go into the purple connector on the back. If you plug it into the green one, it'll fit, but it won't work in the machine. It may turn on and not do anything. Okay, and then I just need power, which I have right here. We'll plug it in, and then let me turn this so you can see it. And if I did it right, if I diagnosed it right, and if I've installed everything correctly on the power supply, it should boot into Windows. And nothing's happening. That's because the power switch is in the off position on the power supply. Forgot about that. When you're working on the power supply, make sure the switch is in the off position, even when it's unplugged. We've now moved it to the on position. Let me reach up front here. The fans are turning. And hopefully Windows will load. Let's take a look. Now this is where most repair centers stop the repair, they bill the customer for their labor, and they bill the customer for the part. This is where I'm a little different. To me, the repair can now start, because the repair, as far as I'm concerned, is the maintenance of Windows. If I haven't seen this computer in 7 years, it probably has a lot of temp files that can be erased. There may be some settings that I've learned about in the last 7 years to optimize Windows, like I like to change the default page file from a permanent setting to letting Windows decide and control the swap file size or the page file size. I will update drivers. I will use a program called CCleaner to help remove temp files and clean the registry. I will use a program called Crystal Disk Info to check the status of the hard drive and see the overall hard drive status of health, how many hours are on it, and what condition it's in. If it's blue and in good condition, wonderful. If it's yellow or red, then I'm going to recommend a new hard drive to the customer. I'm going to run memtest 86 on it, another free utility that you boot off of a CD that you create, and let it test all the memory and see that all the memory passes the test. I'm going to look for any firmware updates for this DVD drive, see if there are, I'll apply them. I'll look for any BIOS updates for the motherboard. If there are, I will apply them. I'll make sure all the Windows updates are installed and up to date. If he's using whatever antivirus he's using, if he's using a free antivirus, I'll talk with him, of course, and recommend that while I have it, I put on the free Microsoft Security Essentials, combined with a paid version of MalwareBytes for anti-malware. Those two things work excellent together, and what I really like about it is it saves my customers a ton of money. MalwareBytes, you buy it for about $25. That's the retail price. You can probably find it cheaper elsewhere, and you own it for the life of the computer. You never have to pay for it again for that specific computer. And of course, Microsoft Security Essentials, it's light, it doesn't bog down an older computer like this. Like the new AVG would just slow this thing down, and I wouldn't recommend it, and then they'll throw pop-ups to try and get you to purchase stuff. Microsoft Security Essentials won't do that. None of these antivirus packages can protect you 100%, regardless if they're paid or free. The key to making sure you stay virus-free is being a better driver, right? The key to staying out of a car accident is being a better driver, not buying a safer car. So that said, that's what I recommend for my clients. It saves them a lot of money, and in my experience, the combination of MalwareBytes and Microsoft Security Essentials is an excellent combination. And again, the paid version of MalwareBytes. I think it's a bargain, and I highly recommend it. A couple other things I'll do is I'll look and add and remove programs. If I see any toolbars, I'll remove them. If I see multiple versions of Java or any versions of Java that are older than the current version, I will remove all of them and then download and install the latest version of Java. I will do the same thing for Adobe Flash, and I will also do the same thing for Adobe Reader. You can see there's a lot of work that goes into it. It's still got to get virus scanned with a full scan once Microsoft Security Essentials is installed, and then it's got to get a full malware scan once MalwareBytes is installed. So depending on how big the hard drive is, how full it is, and how fast the computer is, each of those scans can take an hour or longer to do a full virus scan and then a full malware scan to ensure that when I return this system to the customer, that it's functioning 100% virus-free, the hard drive's good, everything's updated, and it's running as good as it can possibly run. Even though it's as old as it is, as long as it's meeting the customer's needs, that's all that matters. And my hope is that I don't just fix the computer, but I make it better than it was. Computers will slow down over time because the temp files will build up and because Windows crud just builds up. And so to clean all that off will often unburden Windows and free it to return the performance that it had like when it was new. And it's not uncommon for a customer to tell me, wow, I can't believe how fast this computer is, because it's slowed down, you know, over time. They didn't notice it. And then when they get it back and suddenly it's unburdened, they realize, I don't need to buy a new computer at all. This computer is more than fast enough to meet my needs. Now, of course, when Windows XP support ends in April of 2014, I'll no longer, if a customer brings me a Windows XP computer, I'm simply going to recommend they buy a new computer at that point. I wouldn't recommend putting Windows 7 on an older Windows XP computer because it wasn't designed to run it. It's going to run slow. The customer's not going to be happy. You buy a new computer that already comes with Windows 7, you're good to go. But until that time, Windows XP is doing its job. Customer's got another 2 years of good use available on this computer, all for the price of a power supply, a little maintenance, a little cleanup. One other thing I'll do is I'll look in MS-config, look at the Windows startup, and check to see if there's anything that can be removed from there. There's another free application I like to run called PC Fixer, and PC Fixer is great for Windows XP. There's two particular areas I look at. One is performance and the other is security. And I will go ahead and let PC Fixer do everything it wants to do, except in the security tab it likes to disable Windows autoplay. And then my customers will call me and say, when I put a CD or a DVD in, the computer just sits there, it doesn't start automatically. So even though it's a security thing that PC Fixer likes to disable, I leave that enabled anyway for the customer's convenience. Of course, you can do it any way you want. I'll have links to Crystal Disk Info, and I also use CPU-Z, which is great for letting me know what processor and what memory. MemTest 86, these are all free, by the way. MalwareBytes, there's a free version of that. The free version will clean up malware infections. The paid version will help to prevent the malware infections from ever getting on the computer to begin with. I have a link to Microsoft Security Essentials. I'll have a link to CCleaner, and if there were any other things I mentioned that I can't think of right now, they'll all be in the description of this video, below the video. I hope that this was helpful and educational. Maybe not as funny as some of my other ones. Hey, I got good days, I got bad days. What do you want? Some things are funnier than others. Power supplies aren't funny. All right, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.